draft class would be one of the bigger contributors to NFL teams during the course of the season. How do you view this year's draft class compared to others? Because I know that's one of the things as a scout you have to do.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Jim. I think this is probably, pretty mediocre at a lot of spots. Tight end isn't strong. Guards and centers are, mediocre. The type of defensive ends you want. If you want some speed guys and things, you're going to get those outside 3-4 linebackers. There's some of those guys, but, if you're a 3-4 team or a 4-3 team, that if you're looking for a right end pass rusher, there's not a lot of those. The safeties are very mediocre, and of course the quarterbacks are awful. If you get your grade, then you probably get a D. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the 2007 draft. If you look back in the 2007 draft, that was the Jamarcus Russell, Brady Quinn, draft, and I think there might be one quarterback left around, still maybe as a backup guy or something, but that was pretty awful. And and this one, is not a whole. Hey, this one might rival that one. Hopefully, Jameis and Mariota will carry the banner there. But after that, you're talking about guys that are third teamers and things like that.
Wow, so you're literally saying if you're a team that needs a quarterback like the Buccaneers, the Jets, the Titans will probably stay firm with who they have, but maybe the Texans. Wow, you think they need to go after one of those top two guys, or else there may be very little for them left to have.
Well, hey, you look then the next year, just talking about 2016, the top guy might be Cook, out of Michigan State, or Dak Prescott. They're just, you don't know, so they may emerge, but no, it's really, really lean, and somebody, may pop up and be a good backup kind of guy, but not an NFL franchise starter. And by the way, the Jets would be stupid if they let Geno Smith go out of there. They got a new offensive coordinator and get some more weapons. But everybody, this throwaway society. Everybody wants to. If they think you're going to get, a player off the tree, and it doesn't happen, you guys develop these guys. But anyway, that's the 24-hour radio show.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. A team like the Raiders, very fortunate to have had the luck that they had with their rookie quarterback last year. And I suppose the Jaguars, too, with Blake Bortles, even though, it wasn't the greatest season on earth for a quarterback in general, as a rookie, it wasn't all that bad. No,
and he was a big, strong, they didn't want to start him. They wanted to bring him along to develop him, but hey, he looked the best even in preseason, so they had to put him in there later on to develop him. And, you get experience under fire. Actually, it's the best way, but I kind of like to let a guy, put him on the bench and salt him away a little bit, and at least give him a year or two, and then get him ready to go.
Dan, the flavor of the day when it comes to draft scouting or scouting for the NFL draft has been identifying the sleeper or deep sleepers in these drafts. I was going nuts last year doing a mock draft. It was a multi-round, and people were drafting guys that were really 6th, 7th round draft picks in the 3rd or 4th round, but they were so up on them and just the greatest player. And yet I thought to myself, you should still draft these players at the time that they should be drafted and not reach. But my question to you is, in terms of sleepers, is there one or two you could share with the listeners out there that you think, hey, they're the guys to really look out for, and they could share it with their friends?
Well, let me preface this with what one of the great scouts in NFL history told me when I first broke into the league. His name was Walt Jaworski. Walt was actually the most valuable player in the Sugar Bowl when he played, and he helped break, I think it was Notre Dame's winning streak down there when they played in the Sugar Bowl, but he's the most valuable player again. But anyway, Walt was a great guy now, and he says, Dan, when you're looking for sleepers, you get a sleepy team, and he was a long-time scout with Dallas, and he used to butt heads with Jerry Jones all the time, and he was one of the only ones that could, because I think Jerry respected him. But so anyway, the sleepers in this particular draft, like I tell you what, Miles Kiper used to call me when I was with different teams, say, hey, Dan, you got any sleepers that I can take? I said, hey, Mel, my paycheck here says, Philadelphia Eagles or Washington Redskins, so I'm not telling you about any sleepers, And so that endeared me to Mel, but we still chat every now and then. But anyway, the guys that I like, I don't know if you want to call them sleepers or not, but like I said, you go back last year in the East-West, for instance. Those 19 guys. There's 19 guys there that didn't go to the combine or get drafted, and they made it on 53-man rosters. And hey, you call all those guys sleepers. Until you get on the field, for instance, and really show what your compete is. Yeah. You make it. And I tell you what, Jim, you know this. I signed over 25 free agents. Antonio Pierce, for instance, was one of them. I signed Hollis Thomas from Northern Illinois. Played 15 years. Those guys. So those guys nobody even wanted. But they're big compete guys. They were smart. Got in there. They knew football and did a great job. But a guy I kind of like, I'll throw out as a corner at Oregon, Troy Hill. For instance, he's really a good football player. I like him. There's another corner at Towson by the name of Ty Smith, who you'll be hearing about him. Craig Megger from Texas State, another corner that we like, 5'11", about 200 pounds. Really like him. Good football player. Let's see. There's a couple at Louisville that we really like. A guy named B.J. DuBois. He plays defensive end. Again, about 265 pounds, 6'4". Not really on the national radar, but a good football player. But there's guys now. The receivers. Sometimes, when you have a good practice and things like that, you kind of stand out a little bit more. And then, of course, the running backs that we liked last year ended up doing some good things. But I think, there's a guy named out of Azusa Pacific by the name of Terrell Watson, who's a running back. He's about 6'1", 238, kind of like Jim, big and strong. And, he played against the, any high level of competition, but good, strong guy, runs with his pads over his toes, things like that. And a guy, I don't know if he'll make it, but I absolutely love him. He's really explosive. He's 5'11", 220 pounds. But Zach Zenner out of South Dakota State. My son actually played with Zach when Zach came in, and my son was leaving as a senior. And Zach rushed for 2,000 yards 3 years in a row up there. He played in the East-West and was great in practices. Didn't have much running room in the games because the defenses were so loaded up there. But again, a guy that's, really, he's going in pre-med, smart guy, doesn't need football down the line, 3-time academic All-American. Those are the kind of guys I like. 3-time regular All-American. He does it all, smart kid. Then again, in the Missouri Valley Conference, like John Crockett up at North Dakota State. And actually Dave Johnson, we talked about him earlier. He's in the Missouri Valley. A running back, a tight end, Michael, down at Southern Illinois. Really like him, and I tell you what, I had a brain freeze on his last name right now, but he's a good. He catches everything. But Michael Pruitt, and I should remember that because his first name is spelled M-Y and then C-O-L-E, Michael Pruitt. But got excellent hands. So there's a few sleepers for people to go to bed on.
Dan, we're getting towards the end of our time together, and it's only because of the number of questions I have. The time I allotted, we clearly went over, but that's okay. I was hoping, though, before we ended, you'd share one of the greatest stories I think I've ever heard from you about your time when you were scouting for the Eagles, and I can't remember who the owner was at the time, if it was Jeff Lurie or Norman Brahman. But the story sort of went along the lines, there was no head coach, and the owner came in and said, draft my team. I was hoping you'd share that with the listeners and sort of what came out of it.
Oh, yeah. What happened was, it was Jeffrey Lurie. It was, I think it would have been drafted 98. But, there was three just three of us scouts. Didn't have a general manager, didn't have anything but the coaches. The coaches, and us three scouts, we, studied film because a couple of our general manager got let go. One of the other scouts ended up taking an offensive coordinator's job at a major college, and anyway, we were down to three guys. One guy, Jake Hallam, in fact, he got 3 Super Bowl rings now with New England, and he retired this year. But he was one of the scouts, and I didn't see the series on Building Giants or whatever that was called. But Mark Ross, who is the player personnel director, college director with the Giants, was the other scout, and then me. And anyway, we put together the board and got the everything lined up, and we actually studied tape together. After we got the word that we're going to help select this team, we got together and we studied all these guys and built the board up and things. But you're right. Mr. Lurie, he came in and says, "Hey, you guys are it. We don't have anybody else." So, and I think that he thought, "Oh gosh, I spent $200 million on this team and now we're in deep trouble," and but anyway, he didn't know that, the due diligence we'd already put in, and now, we're looking at everybody in the country and stacking them and stuff like that. Well, long story short, is probably the best, arguably, I guess, the best draft in Eagle history, and, we end up, getting guys like, Hugh Douglas. That pro department actually traded for Hugh Douglas. Yeah, it was one of our second-round picks, but, we had, I'm going to have to think of all the guys, but 4 or 5 of them end up being Pro Bowl players, and our big left tackle, I can't remember his name now, but out of Florida State. But anyway, long story short, then we had 2 third-round picks, and they both played. In fact, one of the returner was out of Notre Dame, and he was, gosh, I tell you what, that's a long time ago. I'm trying to think of those guys. But anyway, we end up, get things rolling. Ray Rhodes was the head coach there, and we got things going, and but it was great. We had a corner named Love we brought in there. He played at Toledo. He ended up getting a Super Bowl ring out at when he was with the Ravens then. But we had Ike Reese. He ended up coming out of Michigan State in the 4th round. He was a Pro Bowl special team player, things like that. So I can't remember those guys. I guess maybe I'm getting all these new players in my head. I could tell you those guys back then that turned the program around.
Dan, I think what year was that again?
98.
I think if you do a Google search, Eagles 1998 draft, it will actually sort of not share the story the way you did, but you can sort of fill in some of the blanks that you might not be recalling today.
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you what, it was absolutely unbelievable, the players that we drafted and helped turn around the Eagles, and then in fact, a lot of those players played. I was more concerned about all those free agents that I signed, like the Hollis Thomases of the world and stuff, guys like that. I never even put them up on the board until the last minute, because you always got some office guy that wants to tell his buddies in some other team about something. So I used to never put my free agents up there until the last minute, and things like that. But anyway, we in fact, the thing was really funny. The big tackle, we weren't going to draft him, and we were going to take a corner out of Miami named Starks, and so I called the agent. The famous agent down in South Florida, Rosenhaus, and said, "Hey, we're going to take your corner, at 10." And he said, "Well, it's going to be tough to do because the Ravens are taking him at 9, So then that's where we go back and say, "Hey, we got to take this left tackle." And anyway, he played pro ball for 10 or 12 years. I think he's a coach now at the Eagles, and he made the Pro Bowl several years. and but he was on our sideboard. Actually, we had him off the board for a background deal.